Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Director Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Dr. B.P. Singh, Ms. Sarita Mathur, Ms. Shanli Govindu, Mr. Rodney Roscrew, Ms. Shisti Harinarayan, Mr. Piyush Khandewal, distinguished online guests, on behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, it gives me great pleasure to invite you to today's program, the second edition of Pushtaluk, Light of a Book, a discussion on Miss Sarita Mathur's book, Once Again Love, with the subtitle being Reconnecting with the Heart. The book, Once Again Love, through its unique combination of poetry and prose, introduces readers to the metaphysical aspects of the life through instances of both science and spirituality. You can always connect to love by reconnecting with your heart and living life with both left and right brain. Theme of the book is non-judgmentalism and never being a victim, as living your life with heart-based awareness is always the way forward. To begin today's program, I would like to invite the author of the book, Once Again Love, Miss Sarita Mathur, for her introductory remarks. Miss Sarita Mathur has dedicated herself to a lifetime of helping and healing. She is a visualization and motivational expert specializing in abundance and emotional intelligence. Miss Sarita has taught Reiki and transformational courses called The Caterpillar Has Become a Butterfly. Miss Mathur's writing has also garnered her worldwide attention. Her experience with depression inspired her to write the poetry prose compilation Once Again Love. She was a semi-finalist in the Lindsay Way Poetry Project and has poems featured in Unbreaking the Rainbow. She has also been a guest speaker at the Live Poets Society in Durban, South Africa, and featured on the South African television program called Eastern Mosaic and profiled for a newspaper column titled Women Who Made a Difference. Miss Sarita coined the acronym MONEY, which means My Own Natural Energy Yields, which speaks of abundance coming from within yourself. Miss Sarita has been honored with the Silver Quill Award for promoting literature, and her book was accepted in the Delhi Literature Festival as well as the Calcutta Literature Festival. Writing as a spiritual journey and another on an Indian diaspora, Once Again Love, has been accepted as a library book in South Africa, which is a great honor bestowed on her motivational piece. Miss Sarita Mathur.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. And it's such an honor for me to be here on this platform, in a virtual platform, but we are all living in real time. And at one stage or the other, destiny will bring us together as it has brought us together now. So, life as we know it, life is made up of love, life, and relationships with nature, with each other, and with God. The aim of my book, Once Again Love, is to promote non-judgmentalism because so many things happen to people, events you will never know. When you see their smiling faces underneath all this show, there's a reality they have dealt with which may seem like a myth. They have gone through life and love, sorted out their personality and grown stronger and more powerful day by day so that others can also learn and win, even within the noise and din. On earth, our home, which we must treasure, it is our heart's pleasure to gain once again love and reconnect with our heart. So, life is full of heart based awareness, and quite often, when we go through difficulties, we lose connect with that very important organ. that is our heart. A couple of years back, I had a back operation, and that led me to write this book, Once Again Love. I was absolutely fine. And as Cheryl just said, running motivational courses based on the caterpillar has become a butterfly, flying very high. And then I came down very low because after the back operation, at that point of the back operation, my serotonin level dropped and I got up in a suicidal mode. But did that deter me? No, because immediately I realized that that voice talking to me, that voice which was telling me to commit suicide, is not me. So I asked the nurses to call my parents and my husband, who were waiting outside, and to tell them this is what I'm feeling, but I do not want to do what that voice in my head is telling me to do. I had to go to see a psychologist, a psychiatrist. No drugs or medication helped me, so I had to go to ECT. Within the second episode or the second sitting, I was absolutely fine. The serotonin levels came up. And then through visualization and through healing and through having just confidence in myself, which my family and my friends had in me, I came back to be believing in myself once again. But I was a victim in the beginning. And as soon as I got up, I started writing this book. I would pen pages after pages early in the morning. And the first thought was, why did you forsake me, God, when you were all I had? Why did you forsake me and give me up for dead? I was so silent and serene, happy, but now I am a victim. And God said to me, don't worry, I gave you the option and the will to practice what you preach. So once again, love is about never being a victim, always being non-judgmental about people, and believing in yourself. And it is based on abundance within you and around you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sarita Mathur, for that very inspirational story. Now I would like to invite our next guest speaker, Dr. B.P. Singh, an educationist and author. Dr. Bhuvan Prakash Singh served as an educator from 1985 to principal in 1997 at various urban and rural schools. He currently serves as a Deputy Director, Policy, Planning, Strategy and Research for the KZN Department of Sports and Recreation from 2015 to present. He has also authored a novel titled When the Chalk is Down, an Odyssey, published in 2010. The novel has won many accolades and has initiated many secondary programs of special note and is being awarded the Etiquette 2016-17 One City Book Accolade. The novel is currently being produced as a docudrama as a result of its authenticity and historical value. Dr. B.P. Singh.
Namaskar and hello to everyone. Uh, Thank you to the SVCC for including me in this erstwhile program and creating this particular virtual program so that we continue promoting literature despite the times we live in. It's a special privilege to be part of this panel talking on Ms. Mathur's novel, Once Again Love. I'd just like to say from the outset that, as always, a piece of writing has no meaning or no value unless it gives some kind of inspiration and change to the reader itself. And this is one such book. In terms of its impact on myself, and I think that is most important for Ms. Sarita to know the impact it's had on me. I just want to say that while this is a personal story of disaster and recovery, more importantly to me, it actually depicts a story of the appreciation of the resilience of the human spirit. As Ms. Mathur has indicated, she had the challenges, and more importantly, how she rose from those challenges. I think what is important is the spirit within the individual, as in her case, that helped her to rise from near suicide. I think her book brought about the appreciation of the beauty of life and placed on record those little things that we take for granted. And through her experience, we understand that the little things in life are actually great things in life because it makes us realize that we are living and we should be appreciative of the opportunity of being alive. I think the link that Sarita's brought between the personal self, the physical self, and God indicates to us the issue that God helps those who help themselves. As she mentioned, God did not forsake her. God gave her the options to decide on how the trajectory of her life would be. And she chose to survive and to live and to improve. The issue of connecting with the external world is very important in our lives. Sometimes we are so self absorbed, we forget the external. On the other hand, we become so involved and affected by the external that we forget the self. And I think in the reading of this particular book, it brings a combination of the two. We are a part of this greater universe. Sarita, also in the way she writes, shows a lot of respect for herself as well as the outer world. What I like is the flow of the story. It's written in a very simple format. It does not challenge the brain too much, but yet very subtly it does. But the technique of telling the story is more important to get to the reader than the messaging itself in the highfalutin terms. And a message is very, very apt and appropriate and direct to the heart and the point. And through the story, we realize the complexities of life, but without actually forgetting ourselves. I think it's also important for us to look at the presentation and the technique that she used as an author. There's a very free flow from prose to poetry and back. And many of the times you'll notice that when she breaks into verse, into poetry, it's a reflection of the self and the spirit releasing itself through inspiration. There's no hard and fixed and rigid rule by which she writes. And I think that actually carries through very strongly the message of a story that we need to be inspired by life, we need to cherish life, and we need to enjoy life. And of course, this free flow from prose to verse talks to the innermost passions that we have. And it breaks through from simply the writing on a tissue at Bakamata, for example, to the story of the Mo. I think while she very nicely brought about the realities of the life and the world we live in, she presented her thoughts in a non judgmental and non antagonistic manner. So she got her message through without actually antagonizing anyone. But I think she speaks to, I've got the message. And that is very fantastic. The awareness of the realities of life come through in this book, as does the awareness of the spirit and the self. I just want to say that this book is definitely a book of motivation. It is one of living education theory in the sense that what do we have to offer the world in our writing? And through writing about herself, Sarita has given to the world an opportunity for self-reflection. If she's brave enough to expose her thoughts to the world, we should all, as readers, be brave enough to face the realities of ourselves and what we can offer to the world as well. And it is, yes, a very, very healing book. Thank you, Sarita.
Thank you very much, Dr. B.P. Singh. Now I would like to invite Ms. Shanli Govindu, author, radio host, motivational speaker, and a special needs educator for her remarks. Apart from magazine publications, she has published a novella, After the Party, and her long-awaited novel, Love Leah, was released on the 20th of September 2020. As a motivational speaker, her primary focus is on mental health, how to best overcome depression and deal with disability. As someone who has battled to deal with, accept, and conquer her epilepsy, she has first hand knowledge of some of the most challenging experiences as well as the strategies that work best, something which she wishes to share. As an educator, she has worked extensively in special needs and early childhood education. She hosts the radio segment called The Bookstop, a segment on reviewing and discussing the latest books and promoting authors, as well as an online version of the talk show called Meet the Author.
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl, and thank you so much for having me as a guest on this very special occasion. Just to clarify, so that y'all would be able to find more information about me, my full name is Lishanta Govindu, and my pen name and public figure name is Shanley. So, in case there's some confusion there, but yes, I write under the name as Shanley. I met Sarita as a motivational speaker, and I was very, very blessed when I met a soul such as Sarita who shared the same inspirations such as my own, in that she wanted to go out and share her experiences to help and assist those who had been in similar situations and were struggling with difficulties such as what she had experienced and such as the experiences that I had experienced. And it was a pleasure having her on the international conference, the Wellness and Lifestyle Conference, where she actually spoke as a motivational speaker as well. And I'm very privileged to have had a look into her personality, and she is a wonderful woman. Sarita is a phenomenal woman, and just to take that initiative to open up her heart to the world in terms of what she has written in Once Again Love is just something that really needs to be acknowledged and admired. And it is not, you really need to be a brave soul to be able to put it all out there on paper. And she not only wrote poetry that is inspiring, but she also wrote stories of journal type of entries of what she was going through at that time in life, right from the very beginning when she actually had the fall, to chapter 9, which is the chapter which I really liked, when she spoke about the World Cup and how she related to South Africa, to the chapter in which she spoke about Lagos and her children being born there, and where she goes back to her visits to India, and how she still has that connection between India and Africa. So for me, when I read this book, it was an insight into a woman who was basically giving the world not only a motivational story and a motivational messages. It was giving a person insight into how different continents can connect, and people from across the world can connect through experiences and through what they had endured and what they see in and day-to-day lives, and festivals such as the festival she spoke of in chapter 9, being the World Cup that was held in South Africa, and how, despite being born in India, she felt such a connection to the vuvuzelas in the poem that she wrote there, and such a connection, and being so proud to also say that I'm South African and I'm of Indian heritage. So for me, this was an insight into how it doesn't really matter where you're born. We can all connect, irrespective of whether we're American or British or Indian or South African. Everything that she's written on paper really had this connection that any person who reads this book would be able to relate to. Something that also, when I started writing the book, one of her very first poems, I think it was the poem on page 9, which is the title of her book, Once Again Love, a very, very inspirational poem. But I love the way she starts off with that poem and she ends the book with that poem, in terms of that everything she has written in this book has a connection. She wrote it in such a way that everything links up. And as she wrote this book, sometimes, to me, it is a combination of poetry and an autobiography. When I first read the book, that is how I interpreted it. But she also journaled it according to dates. So some autobiographies, you just read it and it's about a person when I was young, when I was a teenager, when I got married. You can't really relate to time zones. but she allowed the reader to relate to the different events that were going on as per dates and time zones. So if a person had to read this book 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, they will be able to reflect on the different events that were happening in the world during these years. And, for me, that is something that I haven't come across before. And I felt that I really had more insight into Sarita's heart and into the message that she was trying to convey by trying to help the reader understand these different events that were happening in the world. And, every single poem that she wrote connected to the verse that she wrote afterwards. And, Dr. B.P. Singh has even mentioned Vakamata, but for a person who is reading this book from a different part of the world and they do not know that Vakamata is a beautiful restaurant that overlooks the sea, they may not really be able to understand the poem the way someone in South Africa who knows where the place is situated and the real beauty of it is. I love the way she is able to, whenever such a poem was written, she wrote a lovely little paragraph below it so that to ensure that the reader had a full comprehension of exactly what she was referring to, so that a person who doesn't know where Vakamat is, they would be able to know, okay, this is a restaurant, and that you can write on anything. You can find anything to write on, like she says, she wrote on the till slip. When that inspiration comes to you, she put it onto paper, irrespective of where she was, whether she was out with her family, whether she was at home. She just let her heart flow. And then, I'm sure from our conversation, she didn't start writing with the intention of putting this into a book form. But when she realized that this was something her experiences could help others, it was something that I still say I have the greatest, admiration for her, in that she put all her life experiences during this duration in which she encountered such obstacles down onto paper to be of a motivational to be a motivational influence in the lives of others. And again, when I talk about chapter 9, for me, I could really relate to chapter 9 because the events of the South African World Cup um, was a huge plus for me. I remember those days as if it just happened yesterday, because it was this huge it was this event that unified a lot of people in South Africa. But I mean, for the World Cup, obviously, it's something that unifies people across the world, but particularly in South Africa with all the difficulties within our country. She brings in her family who came from India, and the joys that they also experienced there. So she always kept relating to situations in India, in Nigeria, in South Africa, and something. It's not only the poems that really touch you. It's everything that is written in the verses as well. And for me, there was just one other thing, that a poem that really I find is most inspirational, and everybody would find it extremely inspirational, and that's the poem that I am as strong as the sun. And like she has already said, you can decide whether you want to carry on being a victim or not. And that poem has so much of meaning in it. And I love the way she writes at the end. This is how I felt after writing this poem, that I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm as strong as the sun. And if I say I'm as strong as the sun, I can be as strong as the sun, and I can conquer anything. And, as she builds up on the story of her obstacles, she continues until the stage where the poem, once again, love is repeated at the end to make it an absolutely beautiful conclusion to everything that she has put down on paper. So thank you so much, Sarita, for sharing your life with us and sharing your experiences with us. Because for someone like myself who's also been through similar difficulties, I was really able to relate to it, and I found so much inspiration in it. And I know people across the world will do the same. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shanley Govinto. Our next guest speaker is Mr. Rodney Holzberger, author, creative director at Black Door Print. He has published on Poetry Potion online and on print. He leads 3 Writers Club, Merebank, Wentworth, and Grosvenor. He is working on the launch of Publish My Book, which will host inspiring workshops to high school students from grade 10 to 12 to have them write, collect their work, publish, and launch later every year. The program, married with business in literature narratives, freelancing opportunities as editor, proofreader, entrepreneurship through selling of books, all for free. Mr. Rodney.
Hi, my name is Rodney Roscoe, an author and poet. And the book that we're talking about today is once again Love, which I found to be many things, some being the things that have already been said by the great guests before me. But what I found about the book is a sense of affirming of what the title is, once again, Love. I read the book especially with the opening line of the first poem, "The universe is round, once again love," being the recurring theme as I read through the book. I also believe that a book is not something to be experienced or read once over a lifetime. A book is something that you read over different times of your life, with different people in your life. So the book for me is something that I kept picking up and putting away and reading and putting away again. Like my first experience with the book, I picked it up, went to the first poem, and the line, "The universe is round," had me put back the book down and just think back, of how true that is and how aligned it is with my beliefs that the world we live in, the time frame that we live in, is not a linear thing or straight line. It's more of a round thing, a round design, where lessons will be repeated, until you learn the lesson, or you'll make your mistakes until you learn the lesson. So for me, I didn't read the book as if it was being written by the author, the person in the body. The face that I know, the body that I know, I've experienced and has hosted me at my book launch at the Durban Book Fair. For me, it was as if reading the imprinting of a soul on paper. It was as if I was reading the experience of a gentle, caring, and kind soul. Not once bit reading the poem that was written at the Vakamata or on a piece of paper or a receipt did I feel like or see the face of Sarita, or the husband, or the sons, or the son pitching hundreds. It was never that. Every time I picked up the book, for me it was always about the soul that experienced Dora or her friend, when she returned the money. It was the soul yearning to come back and experience love again, or once again. It was karma saying, maybe it's not enough. Come back again. Come experience love again. So, as much as a lot has been said, a lot has been said. The beautiful stuff has been said by the book. But for me, it was love being experienced again and again and again, and a soul finding, itself again after it has been dislocated, as she has done with when she dislocated part of her spine, and the serotonin levels dropping into depression. And that for me also spoke volumes of how centered she is, how Sarita is centered, and how much she knows herself to quickly identify that there's something wrong with me. I think it takes a while for people to actually identify what's wrong with yourself, that you are now away from your center, and so that that shifted my thinking. How quick she was able to say, I'm not aligned, give me help or get me help, so that I loved. And the soul aspect, like I've said, for me the book keeps on speaking to that. I also think the book also deserves to be bit an anime or a movie, under the title Once Against Love, where we not only experience her journey, but we learn of the healing practices, that she speaks of in the book. Because some of the things or the practices she speaks of, I've only learned when I was watching anime, from from Japan or from China or from Korea, so to learn of those from a person who practices them, the person who used them on herself, was mind shifting. So I'd love to experience more of those healing practices from not just reading, but seeing and listening to, and being very involved in those healing practices. So for me, the book is mind opening to new healing practices. It's an experience of a soul trying to have a body experience in a very gentle and kind manner. And that's what I picked up. For me, the book is not an easy read per se, but it's a light, gentle, caring read, and you pick that up with each page. Even the turning of the page, begs you to be gentle as you turn the page, because that's how gentle the writing is. And I think we need to experience more of this book, but maybe not in loud sessions or Q&A sessions, but in gentle, small, intimate sessions where we are read the poetry slowly, engage the author, and experience healing of a different sorts. So once again, Love for me is a gentle book, a kind book, and also speaks to what has already been said about the book, about the author, and the honesty, and all she's achieved, and her sense of recovery after suffering from the depression she has suffered. I loved the book, and I think it carries more than intended, be it to motivate or to help one find himself or herself. I think the book is a healing journey. It's a journey of a soul that we should all, take with and read from time to time, as books are not read once in a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodney Ross Kruger. Now that you have heard all the reviews of our guest speakers, I hope that you would read Ms. Sarita Mathur's book, Once Again Love. Now that we have come to the end of today's program, we will have vote of thanks by my colleague, Ms. Shisti Harinaran.
Namaskar. On behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, the Consulate General of India in Durban, it gives me great pleasure in rendering this afternoon's vote of thanks on the second edition of Pustakalok, a light of a book, with the discussion of Miss Sarita Mathur's book, Once Again Love. We would like to express deep gratitude to Ms. Sarita Mathur, Dr. B.P. Singh, Ms. Shanli Govindu, Mr. Rodri Russ Kruger, Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, colleague Ms. Cheryl Banwarilal, Mr. Piyush Khandalwal for your technical assistance and support. Most importantly, you, our online viewers and guests, thank you so much for your contribution by watching all our programs. Please stay tuned to social media pages of SVCC for what's happening next. Namaskar.